table, you're going to get together and we're going to have you move to the area that you're most interested in. We're going to hand out a sheet with the information about the people in that category, of persona of those people. And on the back of it, there's going to be a written persona describing somebody who might be in that category. And then there are going to be some questions that you're going to answer as a small group, and then we're going to talk about in the larger group. We'll take 20 minutes to do that small group.
We're going to go ahead and gather back together. So starting with these groups that look at the lowest persona, which was David's persona, David's story. What stood out to you about David's story?
He was in a hurry.
David was in a hurry.
That was all about him.
David seems
What I
really
wanted
self-focused
yes,
to you.
self-focused.
Okay?
He was unprepared.
He was unprepared for what he faced in the field.
There wasn't a lot of spiritual.
Okay, I've said, up here there wasn't a lot of spiritual dynamic to his story. And what were you all saying back there?
I just said, among other things, not financially ready. It appears that the leadership of this new NGO kind of set him up for failure, not preparing and getting them ready, not any language. There's a lot of things that just did not happen, and he appeared anyway.
Yeah, you really see some ways that there are some adversities that he's facing that were not necessarily his fault. Yeah. Anything else about David's story?
Expectations, that what he anticipated, what he would do, how things would go, that were unmet. He had a lot of unmet expectations.
Yes, yeah. A lot of things that he thought would be true that just turned out not to be true.
And we mentioned that we thought he was kind of isolating himself in a lot of ways. Once he realized that he was in over his head, he starts to isolate himself.
Yeah. His response to feeling like it was too much was not to reach out to other people. Yeah. So you were David. What did you all think would help you to feel both supported and like you had room to grow and develop?
He needed an orientation to the field. The leadership made that priority.
Yeah. So some basic training stuff, some pre-field training, and time to learn the language.
But we also said he needed a mentor.
Yeah.
He needs to find community fast.
Yeah.
Needs a budget. And someone from his organization needs to walk alongside him, show him the ropes.
Yeah. So he really needs some help from somebody who's more experienced, who can help him along. But he also needs community with peers. And he also needs some really just practical help with figuring out budgeting and money stuff.
Yeah, he needs an environment where he's not expected to go find the answers, but that someone will help him.
Yeah. David is not a person who has the resources at this point to even know who to turn to or where to look for resources. So he needs somebody who's going to bring him the resources and offer him suggestions for things that might be supportive. So we've already kind of said mentioned some of the resources, but are there specific resources that you at your table thought of that would be helpful to you if you were in David's position?
So no, but you gave us a great idea, which is he's dependent on blogs. He's going to blogs for advice, and someone who could give him a good blog that would actually address some of the issues that he's dealing with.
Yeah. So one good resource, practical resource that we could give him is if you're going to blogs anyway, maybe you probably don't have to give them a list of the ones to stay away from, but there are some of those out there for sure. Yeah. Did you guys come up with?
It's kind of like a 5-minute attack. He needs a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Member care, a coach, supporting the local community there, somebody reaching out to them from back home, whether it's family or it's church, whatever. And there, pairing him with other missionaries in that community that, like we said, that have experience and are more seasoned, and let them walk.
And I think those more experienced missionaries need to be authentic and admit that they struggle.
Yes.
And still struggle.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody in their first term needs to know that it's normal and that it gets better.
One of the things that I thought about was you need some spiritual support. So you bring in like a pastor, some sort of spiritual help to just get them to focus on how is God in this, because we seem questioning if God sent the wrong person here.
Yeah.
So somebody who is able to bring in some spiritual help, be part of the NGO where you feel safe to be able to express some of this stuff.
One of those resources that he needs somebody to bring to him is some pastoral care from somebody who knows how this life works and who can encourage him to in ways that are going to help him find God's work in this. Good. Thank you, people who studied the lowest group. I would say lowest people. So we'll move here to the people who are looking at the low persona, which was Nora. So to kind of give a quick summary of Nora's story, because you all didn't have access to the low stuff. Nora is working in Brazil. She's been there for a few years, and she really has some good friends. She's fluent, but lately she's had some experiences with Brazilian culture, specifically the way that Brazilians treat women. That kind of really discouraging her, and she had an incident with someone rubbing up against her in some way that has really created a lot of anxiety in her and is really making her question the whole culture. The response when she told her coworkers about it, her male coworkers asked her what she was wearing, and her female coworkers said, "What are you going to do?" And so she's really at a point where she's saying, did I just misread this culture that I thought I loved? So for Nora, what stood out to you about her story?
I didn't see gratitude for the women on the car who pushed the guy away and yelled at him. There was a lack of gratitude.
So you didn't see Nora expressing gratitude.
Even saying, "Thank you, Lord, for sending them and protecting me." It's not good.
What else stood out to you about her story?
We saw that kind of at a high level, she's struggling to live with the paradox of wanting to love the culture, but feeling this is ugly.
Yeah, there's that. No place is 100% good, and no place is 100% bad. And how do you live in that?
The other interesting thing about her is that she actually is very content in the work that she's doing. She really loves it, and she actually loves her coworkers, which tend to be two great challenges, but neither of those are the issues for her.
Yeah.
But at the end, because of her coworkers' reaction to her around this one incident, she wonders if she's cut out for possible living. So one area can derail something that looks
Yeah.
like wouldn't everybody want somebody to be, and she's fluent, so she's already fluent, great coworkers, great team,
Yeah.
and meaningful work.
Yeah. She's got
I
a
know.
lot going for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when this thing that's a support for coworkers becomes a thing that's a stressor,
being listened to, yeah.
And being pursued, like, how did that make you feel? Like, asking questions throughout the round.
Mhm.
So they just assume they understood what she understood.
Yeah, yeah. In some ways, her friendship with them and her fluency actually works against her because they don't see her as being like, oh, you might have a different response to this than I have. So she needs somebody who's going to notice that and draw her out and really hear her. She needs some trauma counseling. What resources can you think of that might help her?
If she could use the conflict resolution tool or something in order to, because she didn't want to make a scene in front of her one coworker, so like, she could have walked away and then gone back to that conversation and kind of shed more light on the situation of why he responded the way he did.
Yeah, if she had some skills for how to be culturally appropriate, but still address the issue. Jeff, when he does marriage therapy, sometimes talks about people, you sweep things under the rug for 20 years, and then there's a giant mound in the living room. She's started her mound. Great, thank you, people who look at the lowest category. Let's talk about the average group. I think it's important to point out, I don't know if you all know this, but we're used to thinking of average as like, oh, that's a C, so that's not great. 80% of people fall into the average group. So the vast majority of people that you'll be working with will be in this group.
Most of us are.
Huh?
Most
And
of us are probably.
many of us.
Yeah.
Although also many people in the high category are working in member care. We'll just assume we're all in the high. All right. People who are looking at the average story, Aven's story, what stood out to you about Aven's story?
We came up with Aidan and her husband loved their work. People they're ministering to that's in the medical profession. They love working together as a couple.
Yeah.
They have a great relationship. They are impacting the students' lives at the hospital. They are about to have their first child, and they're very excited about that. They have good relationships with the staff, and they are gifted and trained for this work.
Yeah. So they've got a lot going for them, both the resources they're bringing into the work, the experience they're having in the work, their personal experience, their relationships. Yeah, great. Is there anything else that stood out to you about Aidan's story? There doesn't have to be.
That's all I wrote down.
If you were Aven, what do you think would make you feel both supported and with space to grow?
So what I didn't say, I'm sorry. I didn't say first. I don't have the list there. Sort of, they had some unexpected change situation, and a new director's coming in who has significantly different viewpoints on how to serve the pregnant women who come into the hospital and deliver. And so Aven is feeling this loss of control and a sense of conflict because of the relationship with this new director. And on top of that, she's got her new pregnancy, which is impacting on her emotionally and physically and so on. And they just determined that there has to be a
Yeah, they may be able to go to Nairobi and do it in Nairobi, but they may have to come back.
So on the horizon is a change in the
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty in there.
Sorry, that was important to say.
Yeah.
Because of her age, they might have.
Yeah. you all think might help Aiden?
We talked about some, just that safe circle that hopefully she's got before the people do hear her out, and be supportive and like, helping her to continue to survive and those kind of things and, support doing that. Conflict, we talked about conflict.
Somebody to mediate between her and her boss. Yeah, and also some resources to say, let's make sure the other side of your. Yeah. Good. So, I do not want to let you guys out late for your break because breaks are very important. So I will take 1 minute and just say what we've covered most of the time here, and we will plan on taking a few minutes because we do want to not skip high and highest. You guys have good answers that we want to hear. So we'll talk a little bit more about the personas, and then we're really going to get into the core findings from the interview and talk about the 3 nurturing relationships that missionaries report help them to grow in their resilience. So we will, am I forgetting anything? Okay, so we will see you in about 15 minutes. About 15 minutes. But not tomorrow. I work in Michigan, and they lived in Canada for a little bit. So, will I just pick up?
Question. Yes. I mentioned this, but when you look at, let me get this.
Yeah.
When I look at popular support systems,
Yeah.
okay, that gives you an idea of where they're at.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when in the real world, when there's a situation that needs improvement,
Yeah.
and the individual needs some guidance,
Yeah.
everything I've learned said help the person understand their situation, what the expectations are. So if you know, let's assume the individual we're talking about, you know this is the support system they're using now.
Yeah.
But it's not being successful.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you dump your family. We've got friends like that. Their family. I'd like to because their family is actually pulling them down.
Yeah.
So bring a new approach, but also I've been in 2 situations now where the team was crumbling. And what it was too much of this.
Too much support.
Too much support from books and internet.
Okay, yeah.
They were there all the time, and they were abandoning the team.
Yeah.
And so that had to be addressed, so an expectation was set.
Yeah.
And I agree, it may be partly what they're there, but a lot of times, in that situation, it's not. So to some degree, and this is where Christian organizations, I find, they're unable, they seem to lack the discipline to hold people accountable in a loving way.
Yeah.
And yet in the business world, HR sits there and says, here's your process.
Yeah.
Sit them down, box of Kleenex there when they come in, lay it out to them, what the expectations are. I honestly believe, and just over the last 5-6 years touching bases, agencies are afraid to do that. And it's sort of not in this realm. The member care gets called in after the fact, after whoever's overseeing that group doesn't take that action.
Yeah.
Which in a lot of ways, it brings a sense of security. Okay, I know where I stand.
Right. Right.
If it's done properly. And that's where sort of say, if I were a manager, I'm sitting there going, if this is the person I'm talking about, okay, I know they're stressors. I can help them with some of those probably. If this is where they're looking for support, maybe there's better support systems that I introduce into their lives. Not to say, no, you're doing the wrong thing, but have you ever considered A, B, and C?
Yes. Yeah.
And that sort of because when I looked at that, that's the first thing I saw. This really works. And again, this is really general data.
Right.
This is what works for a lot of these folks. Personalities and everything take place into account. Maybe there's some of this that we ought to look over here for.
Yeah, that's what does that bring up? So just kind of like pastoral whatever. I got the lowest dogs. It was like one of the most helpful things in my life. It was at a point where I was like pretty distressed, and she laid out she called it the stress support scale. So like think about like a justice scale. And we have like stress on one side, and you have support on the other side. And what happens to us is like, when our life when we have a lot of stress, we let go of the things that are supports, and we don't have an equilibrium, we don't have any balance. What she talked about was that you can really, one thing you can do is you can add more supports in the face of more stress, and you can still have that equilibrium and balance. And so I think, when I look at this stuff, I think about people are saying these are supports to me.
Right.
And so it's like, great. How do we? It's kind of like more of a strength thing. How do we double down for? Well,
it's like saying, I'm in there lifting weights with my arms and my chest are building up.
Yeah.
But my legs aren't working.
Right.
And what I feel like my exercise routine is legs and chest.
Yeah.
Well, then instead of maybe you need to add 5 more pounds,
right.
Well, it won't help my legs.
Yeah. So that would be, yeah.
Because that's if you do the same thing twice as hard, but it's not working, it doesn't do you any good.
Right. I think the thing.
What change are you going to make? See, people are afraid of change, and the reality is, especially in today's world, believe me, I had a CEO stand up and say, if you're afraid of change, excellent, because the speed, and there's plenty of studies that say the speed of change is accelerating on an exponential rate.
Yeah.
And so if you're at a place where you're not able, I've got to change from the millennials. I could say those SOBs, they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, this always worked for me. But the reality is, if I'm going to be effective, I've got to realize that I'm going to change. There's plenty of studies that say if I'm not going to change, I'm going to wither on the vine.
Right.
And that's what I see when you get down to these levels. If you can't, and I'm trying to keep it brief, if I were to go, this was so many people off more detail. You've got to recognize the number one. And you take it with the power that I haven't had for years in the sake of faith, and realize that what God wants to do is change. So you introduce that, and God wants to continually change. And what you're going through right now, it's hard. You acknowledge it. Nothing easy. So what are you going to allow God to change in your life? I don't come and say wrong supports go this way.
Yeah.
But you lead them down that path.
Right.
And say, okay, now how are you going to do that?
Right. Keep doing what you're doing and expect different results.
Just dig a deeper hole.
Right. Exactly.
And that, so, I see that. On my whole career biblically, if they sat up there and said, well, here's what we ought to do, and I'm like, wait, I don't care what management course taught you that, but I don't see that in the Bible.
Yeah.
So you've got to balance that. Somebody's got something important.
I don't know if you want a coffee, but I got you one. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm struggling, because
My husband and I have a retreat center.
as we move, it continually, as we move along, the world's going to change. It's incredible.
And
Yes.
And as an American, if I were going overseas, I'd fully expect, if not when I arrived, very quickly, I wouldn't even be reported to an American. So that's an element that, this is very, I mean, if I look here and check the missionaries that we go to, the data supports this.
Yeah.
But it's like the baseline. Now, ideally, if you have this, what do you want to do? You want to shift that bell curve this way.
Yeah, but how much?
Not radically. You can't do it fast.
Is the goal to get, is everyone to be highest? No. But if everyone...
Well, this side of glory, no.
Yeah, right, so what's the goal?
But the goal is, well, bell curve is always going to be in the middle anyway.
Yeah.
But, and how you measure that. But if you can get so that your score, though the score's not on, is higher than average, that's what we're doing. So incrementally, if you could see that what do you call it? Your risk score.
Yes, the CD risk. Yeah.
CD risk score. I tried to learn that online because I got confused.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So I'll wait to ask you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait through that.
Right.
And that's, in order to do that, I think often some behaviors have to change. How you approach it is a whole different story. And you can't expect instant results without the Lord. And I guess that's part of the challenge I have with a lot of this. People have to make that journey. You can't force them to make that journey. You can walk alongside them, help them.
The whole, they're responsible to, not responsible for.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. I wrote that down.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. Yeah. Like we met working at a residential place, for basically naughty kids. And, like I learned there, like really very quickly, like you can't change people that don't want to be changed. That's not our job.
The way the Lord put that in my heart is be in the business world forever. What do they want? What's your measure of success, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be successful, right?
Yep.
So it's probably about 2 years ago after I retired, I sat in the shower and I said, okay, I'm going into this ministry. How do I measure my success? I struggled with that. And a couple months later, I'm in the shower. The Lord said, I call you to find in the Bible what tells you to be successful. It's totally absolute.
Faithful.
Or obedient, the way it came across to me.
Yeah, fruitfulness follows faithfulness. It doesn't precede it.
And guess who makes who brings the fruit?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's the whole volume of it. Like we're grafted in, and the fruit comes.
Yeah.
But that's
But
it.
you got to be hooked in.
Yeah.
And that, to a degree, that's the goal is to impact people at that curve, and that's why I just it's a fine line. Really, we just lived 2 weeks with a family. I would have loved to just pound over.
Yeah.
But what we want to even understand, they're not in a place now to hear what we have to say.
Yeah.
So the only thing we can impact our lives is by living out our lives and see the reactions that come in similar situations to what we do, and hope that impacts it. And that's where I think we've got to be careful. We don't say, okay, this is what you're doing right now, so let's continue to work and improve it. There are times that's the case, but there's times we got to say, nah, if you're on the internet, okay, there's good stuff on the internet, but how much time are you spending on the internet? Throttle it back, find time to insert something else there. So that support system may be there, it just may go from here to here. Co-workers may go up or something like that. So it shifts where the supports come in, resources come in.
Right.
And that's what this stuff is really. I mean, I can't wait to get it powerful.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I thought was fascinating too is watching how some of this stuff moves. So feeling inadequate, number 1, number 2, number 5 doesn't top 5. it's like, and then like friendship with coworkers, friendship with locals, number 1, number 3, and you see some of those.
Yeah.
So
Even I thought this was, I remember I was conflict and see if your support is your coworkers. Well, yeah, what does the Bible say about that? Iron upon iron. So, yeah, that was the heck out of me. But I still realize it's a support system.
Right.
And I grow through that conflict sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions to raise.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
It's like the more you know about something, the more you're like, I got a lot to learn.
That didn't seem to work. I tried to.
Did you do it with a lowercase PTM?
I did. Got a file not existing.
I think the folder's still empty.
You tried it too?
Yeah, that's the same thing I got.
With the uppercase and the lowercase?
Well, I did uppercase last night and lowercase today.
The uppercase
I mean,
says
I wouldn't
no
think
website.
that lowercase, uppercase should make a difference.
Well, I did uppercase and it said address not.
Yeah,
didn't work
and
for
when
me.
I did lowercase, just now it's like.
It just says it's empty.
I will look at that tonight.
Yeah, that's okay.
Check it out tomorrow.
Just give me a heads up, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And thanks so much for your question about the retirement piece. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to run the numbers on that. I'm like, that could, yeah.
It's.
I will.
Because it'd be interesting to see how that would impact that because, after you've been out of it, depending on, that's a whole other story, what they went through once they left.
Yeah.
If they went through intensive debriefing or not.
Yeah.
So
Right.
That's way too deep. Yeah, just general.
There is like, it is what it is. If we can, if you hope your car is gonna like fly you someplace, you're gonna be disappointed no matter how nice the car is. And it's like, this is,
But it's still, it's still valid input. That's
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and we would like to see a longitudinal study happen with this. There's a lot of questions we have that that is the place to ask them. Good.
Yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying it. So.
Good. Yeah. Am I taking over or do you want to do the?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did
All right.
want to do that.
So just go for it.
All right, we will gather back together. I don't know if you all have all changed tables now, which is fine, but if you were in the group that was looking at the high or the highest, you'll just have to speak up from where you're sitting now, because the people who are still here, well, they could probably hear people, but we might hear everything. So, folks in the Aven
Good. But I'd love to hear your feedback.
On the other side, actually, that's great. Thank you.
In the city.
Yeah. And really that still and maybe even needs to be debriefing to help them move out the uncertainty. That's great. People who are studying. It is good. Anything else from those representing 80% of us?
Also, someone who understands the medical issues
a national boss who was trained in France. She's an American who was trained in America. So you've actually got 3 different cultures, just culturally, and probably 3 different medical cultures that all collide there. It's a complex situation. Somebody needs to know the complexity of it. Well, we'll go ahead and move on to the group that was looking at the high persona. So this was Sung Yun. Sung Yun is a Korean missionary who gained a heart for missionary care while he was serving in India and then went back to Korea after having gotten an education at Asbury Theological Seminary, where they have the best PhD program in intercultural studies. And he is finding that there's a mismatch for him professionally. He has this stuff that he wants to do in promoting self-care and helping people, and his boss said, Koreans know how to suffer. We don't need that stuff. And then he has some additional real challenges where he needs to be putting together some programming and needs leadership and has some needs and stresses related to that. So what was striking to you about Sung Yun's story?
We felt really bad for Sung Yun because it seems like he's really realized some things that he feels like along the way. Both in, I think this one said he was in Nigeria, but when he was,
he was
on
in
the mission
Nigeria,
field, it seemed like he asked for rest, and his boss pretty much just wouldn't listen to him because he was young. And so then he went and got really trained, and then at the church he's not listened to because it's too American. We were really struck by his resilience and continuing to work. He keeps hitting roadblocks, and it seems like he keeps pushing towards that instead of just throwing up his hands. Mm-hmm. And it really mentioned when he was on the mission field, he really found a lot of strength and training and going to God became a tool that he needed to go back to and continue to find relief from that overwhelming stress.
Yeah. So Sung Yun is a great example of some of these supports too, right? That he has this deep spiritual support that in part he learns from or really gets into with his Nigerian brothers and sisters. And he perseveres in spite of these issues, even when the cultural stress that's happening is actually with his own sending culture. Yeah. Was there anything else that was striking to you about his story?
He was dedicated and he was still hopeful in spite of the challenges.
Yeah. The things that he's faced do not make him bitter or despairing of what he can do, what he can be a part of. Good. What did you all think in terms of either specific resources or ways that you think he could be supported?
We talked about how he needs, from the first situation with fellow missionaries, it seems like he needs people who give him space for his self-care. Mm-hmm. We talked about how, it can't be like 20, I feel like I need 20 months vacation, but there's certain spectrums that we feel like all of us, or does the mission field fall within, that there needs to be space for us all to understand that we all need different things.
Yeah. There's a spectrum of what we need, and of course we're not going to ask for more than we need. So we're really fond of the term MED, minimum effective dose, right? So that's a medical term. That means you need to take the amount of antibiotic that will kill the bug, but you don't take more than you need because it has nasty side effects. So he needs to MED his self-care.
And we also said for resources and things that he might need some. It seemed like the core of his struggle was really not with the people he was serving with, but really, not the people he came to serve, but the people he was serving with.
Yes.
So some resources on conflict resolution, on team dynamics, he could really use, because it seems like even in his context in his church, he's really running into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also said that maybe his team needs better understanding of each other and how they communicate, some team building, suggested one resource would be Sharpening Your Interpersonal Skills workshop that
Okay.
has confronting, receiving confrontation, stress management, conflict management, and living in community would all address things.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
great specific resource that would help with a lot of his.
And then we also said he needed a voice, he needed to be heard and to feel valued. And then his materials he had for missionary care were pretty Western. And so we said he needs more contextualized materials. And
Yeah.
maybe a way to focus on theology of suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. It turns out that it isn't just Western people who are missionaries. And that resources need to be contextualized just like the gospel needs to be contextualized.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. So, people who are studying the highest group. Rena. What stood out to you about Rena's? Well, I should do a quick synopsis. So Rena and her husband were serving in Turkey. There was an issue with their tax papers, and they were kicked out of the country because the school that they were working at did not file her tax papers correctly. And so they went into a period of real lament in their life, and then had the opportunity to go serve in northern Cyprus with the Turkish-speaking, which is Turkish-speaking, predominantly Muslim population. So, and now they really are having some experiences of resilience and seeing the Lord at work in this really terrible thing that happened to them. So, what was striking to you all about Rena's story?
Well, we were looking at what makes a person resilient. There's evidence of that. So when the crisis happened, they ran to the Word of God.
Yeah.
They know that that is right.
Yeah.
And,
The Psalms especially, and Isaiah.
And Isaiah.
Yeah.
They left quickly. 2 weeks. And 6 months passed. They were asked to go to another place. They were willing to go and ready to go. And they started in the same mode of making friends right away as they had done.
Yeah. So they used some skills that they had learned in their first assignment to immediately put into place some of those supports in their new assignment. What kinds of resources or other supports did you all feel like you would want if you were in Rena's situation? Yeah.
Packing, maybe watching the children, apparently they would have people that need that kind of, and that's not mentioned.
Yeah.
It looks like they did it on their own.
Yes.
So that would have been helpful. And there's no mention of leadership. Where's the leader, where's the mission,
Yeah. This is another situation where it seems like, are these people like by themselves facing this situation? They would really benefit from an organization, some community help, and some help with stuff that's just like the practicalities of we have to leave now. How do we do that? Yeah.
They don't feel to hold it against anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not begging for help, but they're going to God and delightfully hopeful.
Yeah.
And lifelong learners. They have to learn everything.
Yeah.
And they're older, so they're finishers. That's being tough.
Yeah. Yeah. So they went to the field initially after a teaching career. But their situation, rather than making them bitter or brittle, their lament turns into joy.
So we looked at that leadership factor again, and thinking of millennials who desire good leadership. Without it, what would a millennial do in that situation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the opportunity sort of came along randomly.
Yeah. Yeah.
6 months later.
Yeah, Rena and her husband are in a different situation than maybe somebody facing that of a younger generation without some of those resources, without the happenstance of a friend who said, hey, you could go do this. That's great. Well, thank you all. Is there anything that we missed that anybody really wanted to share from their persona or the thoughts at your table? All right. Since Jeff's a counselor, so he's always like, let's wait like 2, 3 minutes. I'm like, all right,
17 seconds.
Let's go.
17 seconds.
Yes. Sorry,
I was
Karen.
going to say how beneficial having through having already traveled with them.
Yeah.
And know their history and know them personally, and is prepared to walk them through that and through into the next stage in holding them in the spiritual care.
Yeah. So really, I mean, I can't think of a persona where that wouldn't be a support, where a major support to have someone long-term shepherding them in their spiritual life. Yeah. Yes.
We saw the summary of Rena's survey results in the back.
Yes.
More copies of these?
We do. We only made enough written copies for each persona for each table, but
We will send those out. The link, go to the, it's not, I'll fix it tonight.
all right.
But just lowercase PTM.
So tomorrow, when you're reflecting on this, or next week when you're reflecting on this, go to the link, and there will be access to this
Yeah,
stuff.
or you can email me and
Or
we'll get it
just
figured
email.
out. So.
Okay.
Is there any more questions about kind of the survey part of what we've done, or this piece? We're going to move on now to the next section. Yes.
I just wondered, you mentioned there's a lot of things you haven't dug into yet, but did you compare like highest, lowest, and sending countries that, and were there areas that were better at thriving? I mean,
Yeah. So so there's no statistically significant, between where people were sent from. Yeah. Which for me is both like, okay, I think that might, like the CD risk might be helpful. So that's one way to look at that. Another way is to say, so that wasn't a factor. So, yeah. Any other question? Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the demographic data. Were you able to compare any of that data with secular data? See if there was any trends that were comparable?
What do you have in mind?
I'm just thinking about the age demographic and how that seemed to be very significant. Is that significant in the secular data also? Like age has something to do with resiliency.
That is a great question to explore. Yeah.
But we haven't done it.
Haven't done it yet.
Yeah. So, Other questions or thoughts?
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
Top of what he was saying, that I don't know how to quantify this, but maybe in the secular versus the religious, because we would hope as Christians, the longer we walk with the Lord and age, the more mature we would get in our faith, and possibly that goes hand in hand with resiliency at some level too. Whereas in a secular setting, possibly not. I don't know. I don't know if you can even quantify that, but because it's an intangible,
Yeah, I think we get into the next section about kind of what missionaries shared that helped them. I think we'll delve into that a little bit. So that is one of the challenges where it's like, it's like I really wanted to have like 100 responses and talk to a bunch of people, and that didn't happen. This is like, oh my gosh, what do we do with all this? How do we, try to honor this thing? And the people who are part of this. So, and how do we, keep, So, what it's the kind of like, what can we say? What can we not say? So, okay. So we're gonna switch gears and our last hour and a half together, and talk about these 3 nurturing relationships. And I guess there's the giveaway right there. It was turning towards God, others, and self. And that seemed to be what people talked about.